Welcome to the POV podcast. My name is Kate Rira, your able host. It's season 3. Tumefika kwa season 3 and we're going to be continuing doing great things. Remember, this season continues from season 2 of African stories and African leaders. People who have been able to shape their life such that they're not inspiring just the people in their village, but beyond and across the world and even across Africa. My guest today is a leading communications consultant. She is well versed in PR. If you don't need public relations consultancy, you need to call her. She's the one who will guide you on it. But even more so, what has shocked me is how much of a great author she is and how impactful she is now and going to be moving forward. Esther Wanjiru Kaburu joins us today. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Kate. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Are we still calling you Wanjiru Kaburu? We're changing a little bit.
I prefer Wanjiru Kaburu.
Yeah. But if there are any changes, we would know.
Yeah.
We met with Esther, I think, over 5 years ago. And we met once. And then we never met again. This is the second time meeting for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, very crazy. But we've been so in touch since we've always met and had conversations. I guess we thank God for the world being a global village.
Yes. Social media has really helped out because we utaona status ya mtu uone mtu ako mambo yake nini. And it's really great to see and be able to engage with people and even extend friendships that, outlive the years. I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wanjiru Kaburu is known as a PR consultant and a communications consultant for so many years. And I'm wondering, how does someone jump from communication consultant to an author?
Well, I wouldn't call it a jump. I think I'll call it blending.
Yeah,
the more I grow, the more I learn, the more I accept who I am, the more I realize you don't have to be one thing. And I think it's a misconstrued concept where even in career and when we are teaching younger people in colleges and wherever, we tend to make them think if you're a chef, you're a chef. Like you
can't be a driver.
But you could be passionate about driving and take gigs over the weekend and or wherever. But for me, writing and communication has always been something in me. I remember, I've never even told you this story. As you said, we met once.
Yes.
We conversed, but we've never gone this deep. I remember when I was young, I used to actually take newspaper pages and just hide in the bedroom and pretend to be an anchor. So I've always had this thing where I want to make words into sentences, into a paragraph, into something that can speak to someone.
You've always been a storyteller. Yes, you've always been a storyteller at the core of it.
I think so.
Yeah?
Only that when you're young, you're told stop making noise.
I know. Don't be a noisemaker. We're very punished. You see, anyone in our career, because even me, I do communication consultancy on the side and PR if someone needs it. One of the biggest mistakes we did growing up was noise making. I was always on the list. I don't know about you.
I was. And even when you're quiet, you'll make it to the, bad list because, Kate is always speaking. There's no issue.
She has to be on the list.
But they use you when they need it. Because I remember my mom used to send me to entertain the guests. They found her in the bathroom or something.
And they entertain kwanza.
Because they know I'll just entertain them. I'll find something to say. I'll blend. I'll gel. But when you do it, when they don't want it to be done,
you have to do it on their time, eh?
Yeah.
Allah. Now, what is the one beautiful memory you have of little Esther being this outspoken girl?
I think it's how easy I was with people. And I think as much as I was jumpy and all over, I also managed to I've reconnected with a sense I had since I was young of seeing through people.
Okay.
And beyond the surface.
Okay.
And I think this is what has drawn me to the line of coaching. With now the knowledge and having gone through the journey myself of being able to sit and have a conversation with someone and see beyond what they're letting loose on. And talk about things they didn't see or feel or realize about themselves.
So you could notice things as a little girl?
Yes.
do you remember one thing you noticed that was someone, like grown-ups were like, hey, na umejua aje hiyo? Nani alikwambia hiyo?
I think it was about my brother. And I actually, I wouldn't say what it was because, family dynamics. But I remember saying it in the presence of two of my uncles and being shush. You know the way you're shush someone.
Wacha kusema hiyo.
But yes. And then later, when you grow, keep asking yourself, there's the line of shutting up forever. And that's where when kids are being brought up, you risk when you shush them a lot, making them feel no, you can't speak up, you have no right to speak, and they grow up with it. At old age, people cannot even express themselves.
Yeah.
But over time, I came to learn what I was saying was actually true. But you have to avoid drama because of what might have ensued if my uncles continued with that conversation.
You're shaking the table at a young age. Why are you shaking the table?
Well, maybe I've always been a problematic kid.
Are you problematic or are you saying the truth? People call problematic like whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are seen as the enemy of the state because they've called out what was supposed to be called out. Lakini tunataka vitu zibaki kwa laini ili waibe wakule. Sasa unakuja kuharibu.
But I think it's also what many lack the courage.
It's the courage
to call out.
And especially from a young girl. They're like, how dare you? Can you?
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that you found your voice eventually, coming out with books like this and even, becoming a coach and letting people understand how they can actually express themselves and be known as who they are. You've tried out so many careers. Tell me about you being a coach. I'm interested in that. I like that.
Being a coach, I would say the very first client I actually acknowledged as a client was my university lecturer.
Allah?
Mathematics.
Wait, a lecturer wako ndio una coach?
Wangu, yes.
Nani anafunza nani?
I know, right?
I'm confused.
And this again brings the point of ego. Ego is the enemy. When you think, Kate, ni mtoto wa jana,
anafunza nani?
I mean,
anafunza nani?
So when she came to me, this was like a year or two after I finished campus.
Yeah.
And she was like, I find that you're beyond, working here, PR, the things you do out here, because I was in Toastmasters back then in Rotary, and the things I would write or talk about before I even produced my book were, I think she just came across the content and she was inspired, or I don't know how she felt about it.
Yeah. And
I used to really talk about, and one of the areas I tried to do is coach people towards purpose. But right now, I cover it around self-love and healing because I realized you can never get to that place without a certain journey of getting to be a whole person. Like,
to get to purpose, you have to start with self-love.
Yes.
How does a lecturer not have purpose? Because they came to you as a purpose coach and also, a communications coach as well. How can, that's a start. It's a good career. So what do you mean?
That's a good question. That's exactly how I first felt because I was like, oh my God, I'm too small to even coach my lecturer. And I almost didn't take her on because again, I'm someone who has gone through self-sabotaging tendencies. So I almost again went back to that box of I'm not worthy to coach this person.
Yeah.
But for her, she had acknowledged that she's good at mathematics, but all she's doing is coming to class and teaching mathematics. You see, the comfort zone of finding a job, as you said, it's a great job. It's at a university.
It's respectable.
It's within the subject STEM where,
and she's a lady.
And
women
woman
in STEM.
Yeah, so you'd be like, you've made it in life, what do you mean, purpose? But she was feeling there are a lot of things happening around her community. Things she feels she needs to do beyond just standing in a class and lecturing and marking exams and all that. And Kate, once you feel things are bothering you, it's usually a call to do more. And they're bothering you because you care enough to want to do more. So after walking through a few sessions, it's interesting. There's a concept I use of 4 key areas to look at. And it's interesting how she came back to me later to tell me about how her life has transformed, because now she doesn't just do mathematics in class. She's found how these mathematics can be brought to kids struggling with it in the communities.
I love that.
I don't know, the women around her church community who are struggling with the different aspects of, even in communications. I introduced her to Toastmasters. I coached her on a few things, but I told her this is a platform now where you learn by doing.
Yeah.
And she had the courage to go and start her own journey. And you'd be surprised how just planting a seed or saying yes to helping someone without feeling like you're really sufficient to help them can make a difference. And that humility.
Yes.
This
She
is
had
what
a
we
lot of
lack.
humility.
Yeah.
She had a lot of humility.
Yeah.
And I think that's really stepping out of your ego to be like, huyu ni mwanafunzi mimi nilifunza, lakini nataka yeye anifunze mimi.
Yeah. A lot of us lack the humility to first accept we need help.
Ego.
And just go out and ask for that help. So we just stay stuck, and we don't want Kate to know I'm struggling with this thing.
Oh my God.
The minute I go and tell her, by the way, there's this thing that happened and I need help navigating it. Even if Kate will not help you, maybe Kate knows someone.
Or she can steer you. It's like, enda pitia pale ama soma hii maybe itakusaidia. There's something I saw on Twitter, I think today or yesterday, and it was saying people in Nairobi wear the badge of honor of I haven't healed from my ex. Like they wear that so well. Like it's a badge of honor that I have not healed from my ex. And I wanted to retweet it, but I was like, sometimes these days I'm becoming less combative and like I don't have to respond to everything. But in my head, I was just like, I think it's just being stuck in your ego. I think refusing to heal is being stuck in your ego.
Yeah, so
like,
they use it to justify bad behavior,
yes,
right?
They use it to justify bad behavior. They use it to justify why they are stuck in bad relationships. They use it to justify why there is no love in the world or in Nairobi. And the truth is, you're just stuck in your ego. You don't really want to heal.
Yeah, it's true. And you also don't want to do the work, because Kate's healing is work. It's work. And then now you go spoiling and destroying everything along your way. You become your own self-destructor, and the cycle continues. But if you meet now someone who feels the same, who is stuck in their own ego, who is not doing the work to heal, where do toxic relationships come from?
And that's a scary thing, because you see, it has to come from self. Because when you meet that person and you match, you start bonding on some trauma things. Tunasikia kuna trauma bonds na nini.
Yeah.
Get off that bus if you can.
Yeah.
You've talked about self-work, and it takes a lot of work to put a book together. She has 2 amazing books. One, Take Back Your Power. Take Your Power Back. And The Power of Self-Love. I like this photo shoot.
The imagery.
You know? And it takes a lot of work to put 2 books together. And let me tell you why I was so happy to have these books. It's because she sent me this book, but I had seen this book before. And my dad had this book. So I was like, wait. So I should have told you when I received them, because before we met, I wanted to read through so that I can really understand Esther properly. And I was like, wait, I've seen this book before. You've seen something, it's like, I've seen it. And my dad was reading it, and it's like, oh my God, how does it feel when you just meet people in the world and they're like, wait, kitabu yako wewe ndio unaitwa, you're the writer. Just a normal person finds you out of nowhere.
I would say humbling. Because, writing or authorship or reading, we're still catching up when it comes to, our country, our continent. We're doing better every day. I mean, taking baby steps and getting there.
Yeah.
But there are times I receive a review from, a random person that either bought it on Nuria or on Amazon or, wherever. And I didn't sell to them directly. We're not directly connected, or they saw a post on Facebook and they said something, and Kate, the feeling that has been constant is, if I wrote this book for just this one person, it was worth it.
Oh my God.
That's how it always feels, because sometimes we want to sell 1,000 copies, 2,000, a million.
Bestseller.
We don't mind. We don't mind getting there. Hope to get there. But it's the impact it can have on an individual, and then the ripple effect. The ripple effect it can have on someone means if it changes me, it changes the generations after me.
Wow.
Or horizontal generations around me.
Across.
Depending on how you receive it, because also we read a lot of things and sit on them.
Especially with this book, Take Your Power Back, and I told you this book has come out at the right time, because on the cover you see Take Your Power Back, embracing vulnerability and the power that comes with it. So you see sex, addiction, spirituality, worthiness, healing, trauma, wholeness. And I told you when we were outside, this book, you wrote it just in time, because we're coming to an age of knowledge, and where people are realizing that they need to heal these versions of themselves to be able to maneuver in this world. And that's why there's a big tiff between Gen Z and the boomers. They're not understanding Gen Z. Millennials are struggling with starting families and joining families. It's because people don't have their power back. They give their power to someone else. Let's go back to the books. Writing a book is cutting a piece of you and giving it to the world. It's opening a part of you.
True.
With the first book, you opened a big part of you, the power of self-love. Do you remember when you wrote the book and when you decided you wanted to publish it?
I wrote the book in 2016, 17. That was just a year or so after graduating from the university. And I sat on it for like 3 years. I sat on that manuscript, and I was trying to reconcile. This is my story, this is the truth, but there's a lot in it that would make someone around you or even very close to you wonder, really, did you have to talk about it? People deal or want to embrace or not embrace their stories in their own ways, and that's their journey. You can't blame them for it. So there was a part of me that was afraid of what it might do to just put the contents of that book out there. And then I hadn't come from an environment where people are talking about self-love. People assume there is love.
2016, no one was having those conversations. I won't lie. That conversation of self-love has become really heightened now in 2020, post-COVID. That's when people self-love, self-care. So you are quite ahead of your time.
Well, in families, we assume there's love because it's family. In friendships, we assume there's love. But very few people even stretch out to say, I love you.
In Africa, other people find it a bougie thing.
I know.
There's a friend of mine, I went to their home, and they were telling now their niece, I love you. She's called Shiro as well. I love you. And I was like, wanafanya ni wako na uzungu mingi.
I know. It's something very new to us in our culture. But you'll be surprised how much it does to a child hearing I love you. The same way, even in partnerships, marriage or whatever, don't just assume I know you love me.
Don't just assume that you think I am beautiful. Just tell
me you look nice, you're beautiful. It doesn't mean you don't know, but there's something it does to you, actually to your spirit, once it's said to you.
And it recurs in your mind.
And you it's like affirmed in you and assured and reassured over and over again. And what this does, especially when it's a home or family setup, these kids grow, especially when you back it with actions. They grow knowing what love really is. And they're not going to go out there and get confused. So when I was trying to talk about self-love and how I've written how acceptance of yourself and getting to learn who you are with all the faults and ups and things that you've been told growing up, and shedding off or learning wherever you need to learn, the constant still should not be taken away. Is you still have to love yourself. And I talk about loving yourself with your stars and your scars. Because a lot of time we think it's when you're doing so well. I mean, you know the way we applauded when you do something nice, but when something is not going very well in your life, you're on your own.
You said loving what and what?
Your stars and your scars.
I love that. Your stars and your scars. Your yin and yang.
Yeah.
Upende pande yote. Yeah. Because it's the version of you.
Yeah. They all form part of who you are. And over time, you realize that even with pain and suffering, which is part of life, is because we've chosen a part of life to accept and a part of life not to.
I know. And that's why the bad ones are hidden.
Yes.
You can't walk around with your scars bleeding here over everyone. Allah.
Yeah. But we don't realize also a scar means what? What does a scar mean?
A conquered war.
Exactly.
A conquered battle.
Yeah. So instead of them reminding of us our strength, we want it to remind us of our pain, and we get stuck on our pain. Which is unfortunate.
You know what you're not going to do, Esther, is come on my podcast and just peel the layers on me. You're not going to come here and
What's
do
your
that to
birthday
me.
season? Maybe I must send gift to you.
You're not going to come here and expose me. That's not what you're going to do.
Come on, we are friends. We're just having a conversation.
Because you're saying shit, I'm like, oh my God, Wanjiru. I love the fact that you shook the table and you give out a part of yourself. It took you 3 years. 2016 unahesabu 3 mpaka uamue sasa to publish.
Yeah.
The aftermath of releasing your book, what relationships were mended? What relationships were broken?
One, I'll talk about the general people.
Yes.
You see, this book, there's somewhere that reads, behind every successful person is themselves. You know, I'm religious. I go to church. I'm Roman Catholic and all that. And a lot of people came to me with, you're trying not to see and acknowledge the place of God. You know,
you're mocking God's role.
Yes, like
because you said behind yourself.
Behind every person. I mean, success is themselves. I like, how dare you?
Only pride.
I know, especially in the culture that we come from. And one thing I would say is, I don't think this person has taken time to read the book.
They saw the cover.
Yeah. Because if they read, first of all, they would have seen anecdotes and certain examples given in the book that really give the voice of the supreme being. But here is the question, Kate. What's the number one commandment? I know you're spiritual.
Najua.
The greatest commandment is love.
Oh, yes. The greatest commandment is love.
The statement reads, you love God, blah, 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 and then love your neighbor
all your heart, as you love yourself.
Thank you.
Yes.
So there is no way you can ever give what you do not have. And what we keep trying to do is saying we love other people, we love our children, we love our spouses, we love our friends, and we do not take time to connect with ourselves and love ourselves truly and right. And then now we think we can receive or give love. It's a lie. It's deceit. So the first thing I had to fight with is these statements. Over time, I've had to clarify and lead people back to actually realizing, even through examples. I don't know, Moses had to have a stick to hit the water. It is themselves. It is they that God uses. So really behind anything you ever do with your life, you are central to it. And that's why I find myself really wanting to focus on transforming the individual.
Because, the self.
Yeah. Because I feel like once someone is transformed, everything around them, even the way they look at that God, even, get transformed. Now.
You're preaching.
To the family. Hey, my dad. I remember taking a walk with my dad and he's trying to get some answers. First of all, congratulations, well done. And there's some things that bother me in this book. It's first in this book that I just removed a band-aid kidogo on assault, sexual assault, but I never went to details. And I talked about their bringing and how it made me feel.
You're questioning
and I was a daddy's girl.
You're questioning this man's upbringing. He's home. He's like, I built this home. I raised you in this home.
I've loved you. And there's no doubting that. You've loved me. And that's the way you knew best. And there is no questioning that you loved me. But for him, he really embraced it. And he said, you have made me see a part of parenting, a side of parenting that I had not seen.
Was he done with parenting yet, ama they were younger ones?
Sorry?
Were there younger ones?
Our youngest is 5 years different, so she was already in campus at this time.
We didn't have really toddlers to deal with.
There were no toddlers.
Okay.
So my dad really understood, took it well. My mom, it was a bit tough because it felt now the concept of questioning or not appreciating everything that was done to you, that according to our parents, and rightfully so, is love.
Yes.
They made sure you had food. They you don't even know the struggles they went to pay your school fees, to feed you, to all that.
And you come and put it in a book here to say you are not loved.
And the way you suffered.
How dare you, Wanjiru?
No. So it took a very long time.
Yeah.
And she had to find solace in, her sisters who she was going to when Wanjiru was seeming troublesome. As I said, I've always been active, proactive, outgoing in my life.
Yeah.
And releasing this book was part of reconnecting with that side of me that was dying, because what we are told when we are growing up, as I said, when you're told shut up enough times, you might find yourself never speaking.
Yes.
Because every time you even have something to say, you can hear at the back of your mind someone saying, we don't need to hear it. It's not valuable enough for us to hear. So you grow up, you're in boardrooms, people think you've made it in life, but you can never sit in a boardroom and speak your expertise confidently. You're never heard. Your voice, you discover your voice, but you never use it because all you hear is the screams in your head, shut up.
And even when you say them sometimes, you either say them with fear, with a shaky voice, or you become very combative. It's like, I have to say it, people have to listen to me. And it's like, yo, you're not fighting your mom and your dad here.
I know.
We're just having a conversation. Okay?
Yeah.
I like that it shook the table and even shook the dynamics of family, which is essential. And I say this with millennials, I'm like, if there are people who have to shake the table and shake the dynamics of relationships and family, are millennials. Millennials are one of the most broken people we have. Boomers, sijui mambo yao. But millennials, you people heal. Millennials, they need to heal.
I know, there's ukisikiza two stories, you're like, man, there's a lot of healing needed here.
Yeah.
But the question is, even in our close circles, do you ever ask yourself, why? Why then are we not going the distance?
It's that thing we talked about, the work. See, this work you did in the first book, and then now to do it even in the second book, that's a lot of work. The work to say that I was damaged and that I am damaging myself and damaging other people around me, I need to do something. That's a lot of self-reflection. Unafaa kufanya.
Yeah.
You've mentioned you ripped the band-aid of assault and sadly sexual assault in the first book. And I never want to take people back to that day. But I want to take you back to that feeling. What did you feel after that act?
First, you're numb. I was numb. I didn't know what to feel. And the feeling of numbness was taken over by feeling worthless. And you're carrying the weight of shame that you should not even be carrying. Unfortunately, shame is carried by the victims instead of the perpetrators. And it's okay to take me back because it's a way of also having to reassure myself that I've done the work. You need to, I like saying, Kate, the only way is through it. The reason I call that book, Take Your Power Back, is because someone asks what power? And you ask yourself, where did you lose it? There's a lot of power I lost in that moment when that man did what he did, uncovered me without my consent, did whatever he did without a lot of... You cannot even begin to explain the amount of power
that they took,
that a person loses.
Because they've taken your agency, they've taken your consent, they've taken over your mind.
Yes, they've taken away your ability to choose. Either you want this or not. And we're not even talking about when you're young, you're old, you're married. It doesn't matter. At whatever stage of your life, male or female, that happens, the amount of power or magnitude that is taken, that's why I'm talking about feelings like shame, worthless. And you find yourself making decisions.
I didn't hear anger in one of those feelings. Why?
Actually, I think the feelings I felt, or I would suspect a lot of people feel, might be more of blame than anger.
I think in my instance, I felt anger. It was anger. I think because, if you like being in control, someone tries to take over your control, how dare you try and do something like you're angry at them.
For me, it's now blame. I blame myself. Like, how could I put myself in a situation where these... And unfortunately, a lot of other people will look at it like that.
The world looks at it like that for a long time. It has looked at women.
And it's unfortunate that victims feel the blame on themselves and then shame, because shame should be to the people actually doing it. But if you want to heal from certain things now, the reason I'm thanking you for taking me there is because that's the first step. You can't avoid when, how it happened and how it made you feel and expect to heal or to even start that journey.
You've said you have to go through it. And I'm like, I hate that statement. I hate it. I don't like it because it's shit. There's no other way.
Yeah. And do you remember that point you said about people holding on to it, saying, I've not healed from this, so they justify and they stay in that cycle of, even they start now sabotaging so many things in their lives, including themselves.
Yeah.
Is because there are people who tend to hold on to that pain of brokenness and trauma because they will avoid the work. And the work is what will make them have something else to hold on to on the other side. The joy, the peace, the acceptance. Because it doesn't go away. It can never be undone. The pain, we can't say you forget, you go away. As I say, my sister ever asked me, did I ever forgive the perpetrator? And I talked about it in the second book, and it's true. I did. Because, Kate, you don't forgive for them. It's unfortunate. It's so unfair to yourself. Because they'll never come and tell you sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
You're doing injustice to yourself by carrying the weight of not forgiving. Who said about that failing to forgive is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die from it?
Wanjiru, you will not come to my podcast and do that. You won't come here and subject me to therapy by force. You won't do that. Well, I will not allow it.
Well, you have to.
Because
we are doing the work.
You are shaking this table. I don't know if it is stable to stand.
Birthday gifts.
It's tacky.
Tacky.
I wanted other types of gifts. This is, oh my God.
Oh, anyway, yeah.
Damn, you peeled the onion on yourself so much to get into these layers. And then now you start looking at how you grew up, the things that happened, and how you landed in certain situations. And one of the things that I saw you mentioned was alcoholism and being caught in that mess. And I think if there's somewhere where the world is at, is it there? And we're celebrating alcoholism too much, like it's a thing. And we actually met in a club 5 years ago.
True to it.
Yes. And I'm like, where are you now?
I'm at a place where we talk about separation from the thing and yourself. In this case, let's say the thing is alcohol. Alcoholism, drug use, reckless sex, and sexual partners all over. These are symptoms.
Okay.
These are symptoms of something deeper. See the way you feel a fever, and this is a symptom, could be a symptom of anything, but when you are juajuing, they're like, niko na malaria. So you self-medicate.
Ukiumwa na kichwa unaumwa na tumbo.
Yeah. You just tell yourself,
Kadawa.
But it could be something else. By going to the hospital and getting tested, the diagnosis of malaria, let's say, or typhoid, that's the illness. So a lot of us treat symptoms. So, and we use symptoms to justify or to think, since I'm dealing with the symptom, or even someone pointing fingers saying, Wanjiru is drinking too much these days. No one looks behind the drinking too much.
Like there's
So what we do with
something
our
else.
symptoms, we hide our illnesses in them. And if you've ever treated symptoms without getting to the bottom of the illness, it comes back.
Yes.
Like,
And then you're stuck in this
masquerade somewhere, wiki moja, mbili,
back.
you're feeling something again.
We're back like we never left.
Yeah, so when you ask me where I'm at, and I've actually said it openly,
Yeah.
I didn't say alcohol is bad. I got to a place where I was like, no, I can't say alcohol is bad.
Yeah.
It is my relationship with it that is bad. And why is it bad? Until you question, why am I having too much reckless, even friendships or sexual partners or alcohol or drugs? Why? Until you ask yourself that tough question, why, and go deeper to find the ailment and the disease and heal it, this relationship can never be mended. So it's an escape for you. And you feel good in the moment. And the next day, and the other effect of, this groupie thing with friends, with what, and you become buddies connected by one thing.
Okay. Buddies connected by bad behavior.
Yes, but the problem is this bad behavior might not be a problem for them. If it doesn't bother you, it either has become part of you so much that you can't separate yourself from it. But if it's bothering you, Kate, it's talking to you.
Yeah.
It's telling you, this is not who you are. This is not how things should be. You can't say it's the modern world. These days kuna freedom, I can do whatever.
Women independence.
Yes. I do it. I do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do.
Yeah.
I take
sexual
alcohol
autonomy. Free girls.
So,
tunaitanga hot girl summer.
Well, until you're in the room by yourself without the rest of the hot girls.
Gay.
And take a moment to be honest with yourself. Because
cold
that's the
winter.
stage. Watu hawafikangi.
Ukiwa peke yako inacha kuwa hot girl summer, it becomes cold winter.
Cold winter. You're shivering. And the problem is, you shiver, you go back to the club.
Aye.
You mask it again.
Me, Wanjiru, you won't be coming to a podcast here to start shouting at me. You're shouting. Why are you shouting? I'm not shouting.
But I've been told shut up enough. I got over it, so...
But no, people need to hear this. And when you're listening not to counter, but listening to receive, that is when you know you can learn something. And also, I live by the word of, in Kikuyu, you say, "Mogene mutare." You can be told. Can you be told or not? Now, let's go back to Wanjiru getting stuck in a crazy cycle. And whatever vices, we don't need to get into it. Read the books that you know the vices that were there. Go get you your book so that you know what vices she's talking about.
Yeah.
When you're stuck in these cycles, are there people who are encouraging this behavior, fueling this behavior? Because I realize for everything, there's an environment that it grows in. For mbosho to grow, it needs a certain environment. For maize to grow, it needs a certain environment.
Yeah, sure.
What environments were you in at this time?
I would say yes. First of all, the answer is yes. There were people fueling it. But I would say some conscious, some subconscious.
Okay.
Because this person has fun with you when you're out drinking. Who doesn't want fun?
Want a good time.
So
Life is stressful.
They're not worried, or they don't even think, because of the amount of fun you're even having out there.
Yeah.
They don't even think it bothers you.
Yeah. So we're just out from Friday to
for them,
Sunday.
they're like, damn, we really had a fun night. And then you repeat it all over again. And to them, it's fun. So that's fertile ground. The other side is really wanting to belong. And here is the problem.
Where? Are you
Without
wanting to do what?
getting to a healing, whatever, journey or process, there's this thing of thinking you need to belong. And if this clique of people who are making you feel like you belong are the people who you find yourself in certain behaviors with, things you sit down, Kate, and you say, you can actually say, this is not me. Fertile ground. And then there's something else I'm going to address or say in this podcast. You're not safe from a pattern, a family pattern. You're not special that you cannot succumb to a family pattern. I've seen what alcohol has done to my uncles. I don't know. You can trace and trace and trace.
Yes.
And you think, well, I went to school, I'm learned, I know better.
I'm educated. I can speak English. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard for me to fall into the trap of alcoholism.
And I eat vegetables, so
Trust me. It's in you. I mean, it runs in you. So part of doing the work is that acknowledgement and actually being aware that, mimi tu ni ule niswa anko fulani na niliona what it did. Me tu ni granddaughter to that man that I adored, but I saw what this did diminish them too. You have to acknowledge the roots and everything around you. So the ground is not just fertile in the moment of people you do it with and that kind of a thing, but also right around you. Even I will call it genetics.
The actual
family.
source.
The soil has always been fertile. But then when you ask about how you get out of it is acknowledging to even lose. Part of the work is losing. I lost in that season of isolation and having to accept that there are people now I know we only connected because we drank together.
Nothing deep.
But in that time, you call them friends.
Yeah, let me call my friend up. Yeah.
We misuse that word a lot.
I know.
And they were friends because they facilitated a behavior that was just a symptom of a sickness you're not dealing with.
Way.
So until you even accept that, hey, anyway, me and Kate, I don't think we vibe. We are good drinking together.
Beyond the cocktails, there's nothing else.
Yeah, and you just have to accept that and let go.
And I think, you see, there's something you said, the sense of belonging. And one of the saddest things that we are fighting every day is community. I won't lie, last year, 2024, I was looking for community. And a friend of mine actually tried to mention that. Because I have something called The River by Ketrira. It's a channel, on my Instagram. And I was asking guys, what do you feel you deserve? And someone said, I deserve community. And I was like, I get that. There's nothing as beautiful as community. And that's why we identify either by our tribe, our country, our color, and all that. So every human is looking for a way to belong to other people. And you'll find small nuances. Is it the fact that they like, house music? They like murithi. They like, bongo music. So you identify with that, those pockets of community. Do they go to the gym? I'm in that community. Are they readers? We're in that community. And are we ever truly in the right community eventually?
That's a good question. Because my starting post this year, in this process of, I like nudging people as I nudge myself.
Yeah.
Was you've not belonged anywhere until you've truly belonged to yourself.
Again.
You can never truly belong anywhere until you've belonged to yourself. And, belonging, we think is what we do. I mean, the mainstream media. So the people in the media are my community. They are my people.
Where?
I'm a writer. So fellow writers are my community.
I'm an African literature author.
Yeah, these fellow scholars and writers are my community. Are they really? So that's a very good question to ask. Do you finally really belong
to anyone?
To the right community?
Damn. Meg, you should not have come to my podcast. You really
So instead ask yourself, have you fully and truly first belonged to yourself? Because once that is very clear, you can be part of a certain community based on what you do or your interests, and not succumb to certain things because that's not who you are. Or you can still call some things out
and still be
without feeling like if I do this, I'll be an outcast. Because that's what we do, Kate.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to sabotage this community now we now belong in. We want to toe the line of whatever they think is the rules or should work or is right. You abide because you don't want to negate it and look like.
And you really want to sustain this community, either it is bad or healthy. And I see it in the club. I won't lie, that's a very crazy context because that's where we met. It's okay.
Yeah.
Where take shots, you're part of the team. Everyone's taking shots.
Yeah, we can always
if you
go
don't,
and enjoy a drink still.
And
there's nothing wrong with the drink.
Yeah, no, but you see in that community, if you decide, I do not want to partake in any drugs, kunywa shots, kila mtu anakunywa kwa nukunywi, shida yako ni, like now you're like, wanajifanyanga sana. So when you can't wear a shot just like the rest of us when you think you're Mary Mother of Jesus, And
because you want to belong, what will you do?
You'll do it.
Yeah, but if you're fully belong to yourself, fully in touch with yourself, what will you do?
You'll stick to your guns and be like, no. And I believe also, even if this is really your community, and it's so funny, I thought about it today, it will not call you to step out of your true self. If the community that you belong to will not force you to partake of something, to do of something, to call yourself something, to look like something other than you are, that's not your community.
Yeah, and you should not fear losing that community because it's not your community in the first place.
There's something beautiful, and I'm going to throw it in there. There's something beautiful about finding love eventually when you're lost in the world. And I like the fact that we're finding love and you're finding love in your own way. And I want to understand one thing, because I know when women go through any type of assault, and especially when it's sexual, it takes a lot for you to ever want to be vulnerable with anyone. And either you go into a cycle, and I know some of the worst stories are women who are in the adult film industry or women who, ladies of the night who sell.
Yeah.
Their story began like that. Someone took advantage of me as a young girl, and I felt this is the only way love would work when it's transactional. And also the promiscuous, relationships. Sometimes you find them if you were going through that.
Yeah.
How does someone get back and find, I don't want to call it the purest form of love, but the most sincere form of love, and to be like, you know what, I think men are not that evil anymore. I know I experience an evil man, but not all of them are evil. But there are good men here, and there are men I could be with and have families with. How do you get there? Because you could be... there are women who are still stuck in that and like, what are you a buyer? We know the common phrase, men are dogs, but yet we give birth to them. We don't give birth to dogs, our little brothers and, our nephews and all that. So how do you get back to seeing men as not just these beings, but your fellow human?
It goes back to several things you've said. We've talked about having to love yourself enough, having to work hard at healing, having to get to a place where you fully, wholly belong to yourself. And we mentioned what such incidences do to a person, about the worth, the shame, and it's like you feel like you just are walking. I mean, if this person did this, they can all get away with it, and that's fine. And that's what brings the cycle that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it gets worse when you start seeing that as love. Because like there are very few people talk about it, but let me talk about an experience
for yourself.
After. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So where do you run to after such things happen? You remember when we were having a conversation that if our homes were safe, you even used again the club thing, the clubs would be empty.
Let me tell you, if the homes were safe, the clubs would be empty, massage parlors would be empty, the streets would be empty. If the home, mother, father was the safest place, girls would never be outside doing what?
I know. So, first of all, that's a challenge to all of us. And even you've talked about millennial a lot.
Yes.
And one of the challenges to us is to heal ourselves so that we are the people creating those safe homes. Because safe homes can only be created by an old person who can actually acknowledge what safety means. So to answer how you get to that is, first of all, you have to shed off what that experience ended up showing you love to be or who you are. Because like for my case, the person I went to made sure I did not get sick or pregnant from the incidents.
First things first?
First things first.
Yeah.
Do you know what they did next?
What?
They had sex with me.
Allah.
And I don't want to say it's. I would say I found them safe because, you know, we are told run to the church, run to you know, the places where if home is not safe, you run to.
Yeah.
And you run there and you find, And I masked that, or I got to learn that as what love is, because they protected you from this situation and then they started taking care of you, which when you later do the work, you realize is taking advantage of you. And through therapy is the only time I was able actually to acknowledge that the abuse they did to me was worse.
They were a villain as well.
Assault. Because now this created a cycle of the kind of men you attract in your life, how you view lovers. They came, they helped, you've seen girls who get into a cycle of umse amelipa my bills, so you give yourselves to them. These guys smiled at me or even told me I'm beautiful, because it's not normal for you. You remember when we were talking about being told you're beautiful by your own dad and what that can do to a child.
Yeah.
But this was never done. So any man, you know, they pass or you're trying just to jump a hoop and the only thing on the way is sex, and you ask yourself, this thing was taken away from me without my consent, like, what is it? You've already lost the value of what it means to bond and connect with someone sexually that, like, you know, get over with.
Like Melissa.
Yeah. And it's sad. Yeah. And until you sit down, and that's why I did that in this book.
The second
I felt like
now.
I mentioned, but I'm like, no. And that's why healing is the word that is the biggest in that globe.
Yeah.
Where we've talked about, we've written so many words. And it's because you cannot take your power back until you acknowledge what it did to you. Kate, you can't pretend it didn't do anything to you. So for me, I had to go back and look at the wreck. I call it the wreckage that rape leaves behind. Because I had to name. You have to name it and call it by name. How worthless it made you feel, the pain, the cycle it created, and you stop masking all these now men you've dealt with. Go back and look at all those forms of relationships. Why were they not working? The behavior, the need you felt to keep them. You see, the way girls sometimes also end up doing too much to keep a man. And you cannot keep a man who doesn't want to be kept. Or even the other way around. It's because that's what that moment did to you. And if you're not keen to see the cycle. So for me, I had to acknowledge. So the first step is you have to acknowledge that this happened. And usifunike. Just put the lead or take the lead away.
Rip the
and
look
at what it did to you. Because never pretend it didn't do a lot. It didn't wreck you. It didn't fuck it up. Never pretend. So for me, I had to go through that entire journey. I had to cry all over again. I had to look at relationships I've called relationships, you know, and realize they actually weren't relationships. They were just a way of covering emptiness. You just need to be with someone. You just need to hear a man telling you I love you, even if it's a lie. You just need just stuff. And yet, the thing that hurt you the most is the one you want to have the most in your life. Just how sick that is should make someone realize the amount of work and depth there is into going through that journey of getting to a point where you can actually know authentic love when you see it. accept it.
Yes, you have to be willing to accept.
And give yourself to it, because love is a partnership. Getting to somewhere, you're getting married to someone or forming a partnership bond together, is you're giving also yourself.
Yeah.
To some, and you can't give yourself in the same way you've been giving yourself from the experience of pain.
Yes, that's
You
unfair.
have to get to a place of power. You're giving yourself now from a place of power, because, Kate, sexual assaults even wrecks marriages.
Yes.
Because there are women or men who still see their partner and see the person who raped them.
That's why I asked that question.
They're
How do
trying
you
to
end
be
up seeing them as
romantic and
human?
whatever, and you see the person, and it never goes away.
Yo.
Until you can, I repeat, until you can point it, name it, and deal with it, Kate. It cannot go away. We can't mask trauma. You can mask it to you even in your 60s.
Mm-hmm. But it will
But
manifest.
it falls off even at, when we think Kate knows better, she should do better. Ndio unaona mtu a correct at 60, 50, you're like, what's wrong with this
So I thought
woman?
she was okay.
Yeah. It's because you mask, you think you succeeded. And when you least expect, Kate, uko huku juu sasa, after hizi hustle zote, you've put yourself up here through your hard work and God's blessings and all that. Everything comes crumbling down.
You said something about trauma, and trauma is like an illness. And ugonjwa ina aibu. Ugonjwa ina aibu, acha nikwambie, kwa sababu ukiwa mgonjwa, you'll collapse in the public, in the CBD, but nini na umevaa smart. Ugonjwa ni mbaya because you could even like release. You could even drive the latest vehicle in front of people.
Yeah.
You're here,
Yeah.
verbal diarrhea. Or you could be... That's the thing about illness, and which trauma is, it will manifest in the ugliest form ever. And then when you look back, it's like, why did I do that? Oh my God, I didn't mean to do what I did.
Yeah.
But because you refuse to heal that illness, that trauma, itakuja ikuanike mbele ya watu.
Yeah, na unajua mbona ugonjwa ina aibu, as you put it. Because we do not embrace the vulnerability to accept and actually say, I'm sick. Before you get to a point of collapsing, you don't want to be seen weak.
Itikia uko mgonjwa.
Utaki kuonekana weak. And we've grown up in a society where we are made to believe, especially for the boy child.
Oh, I pity them.
That vulnerability is weakness.
It is not.
It is the highest form of courage that someone can have. Because it's, courage is the same way you say fear is not, courage is not doing something because you're not afraid. It's feeling afraid and the fear at your core and doing it anyway.
Yes.
So that's
that even though you're scared, I'm still going to do it.
Yeah, and that's the measure of courage. And that's the same thing with vulnerability.
Yeah.
So we cannot talk about healing or going through the journey without talking about this vulnerability.
Wait.
A lot of people don't want to be seen they're struggling. And no one is saying ujianike. There are avenues.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that still today people don't understand therapy. They look at it. Ukisema, do you know people are still stigmatized for going to therapy? Ukisema, I'm seeing a therapist, people look at you like, guy, it's that bad.
You're mentally sick.
I know. And these are avenues that are there to help people. There are forums. You don't want to speak, you can go listen. There are podcasts like these where people talk about real issues that you have to open yourself up to actually say, that's me. Aki, what Kate is talking about is me, and I have to do something
about it. What Wanjiru has said.
It's only
ding, ding.
Yeah, but it's only by accepting that utoe tu the ego of thinking people wataniona aji, or if it's therapy you need, baby girl, baby boy, knock that door.
How long have you done?
If it's a coach you need, go. It's don't even think at it. And even coaches work with coaches. People don't realize coaching or therapy is not about...
It's not independent. It's not an industry that is alone.
It doesn't mean you're terrible. And and therapy or coaching is not... it's a tool to heal yourself. At the end of the day, you're the one who does the work.
Yeah.
It's just a guiding... Ni kama vile tu tulienda shule, Kate.
Yeah.
to know better, to get exposed to various tools of, doing life or doing the career fields we are in, or is the same thing.
I feel like therapy is just like someone holding your hand from this side of the bridge to the other one.
Yeah.
That you just cross it pole pole ili ufike. Ama you'll be stuck on this side and never move to the other.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a sounding board.
Where?
But only 10%, so they're about finish even their therapy journey. Because when it gets to a point you realize, guy, hapa kuna kazi mob.
Nataka nifunguke mambo ya maisha yangu kana.
Yeah, you just disappear. But you disappear and later in life it catches up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could go on and on again. I know there's another book that's going to be coming out. We're not going to say the title yet, but we have to look out for another book. Is this a child's book? Is this fiction? What are we expecting from this new book?
I'm not a fiction person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely not going to be fiction. It's gonna be a further nudge. As I said, I like nudging people. Nakufinya too until you actually accept, because only you can do it for yourself.
Yes.
So it's gonna nudge people further and give you more tools. Apart from stories and real life experiences, it's going to give people more tools to be able to work around even the barriers of why can't I be vulnerable, to see the why we even need to get to that point, because it's beyond even ourselves. As I said, you heal, Kate, and you heal a generation.
And that's what we need, especially for women.
If you don't, you continue the cycle.
Yeah, and I encourage women a lot. Women really need to read this because we are the ones who carry generations. The third book is going to be coming out by Wanjiru Kaburu. And if you want to get a copy of this, it's on Nuria bookshop that is in Nairobi. And also, if you check her out online, remind me your page.
Wanjiru Kaburu.
Ukimtafuta vizuri, I know you can get her links. It's on Amazon as well. If you're watching us international, you can order for it as well and have a read. I am super grateful and super happy. But if there's one thing I want to take home with me, and I hope you take it too, love your stars and your scars. Accept your stars and your scars. Wanjiru Kaburu on season 3 of the POV podcast. Thanks for watching.